There's no question in terms of once we started getting these headlines from Washington, we started to see the reversal in the S&P. It was probably 90 S&P points from its low to the close. It was 1.5%. VIX dropped, I don't know, 15 or so percent throughout the day. And it's interesting. You know, we have all said, I'm sure I've said it 5 times since this government shutdown, that the shutdown wasn't really going to have a big impact on markets and blah, blah, blah. As we've bled further into this longest shutdown in U.S. history, and everyone should feel really proud about that right now on both sides. But it's a case where we have certainly some sense that it is having an impact. We had Michigan numbers, we had consumer confidence numbers today that were awful, that were the second lowest on record. Some of the dynamics we've heard this month in terms of the challenger job data, which was the second worst October in 20 years. I mean, these numbers are starting to paint a little bit of a picture. I don't think it's a picture to fall out of bed. And it's interesting also from a sentiment perspective. There's a lot of people at the end of the day that are back to this, oh, boy, I can't believe I missed that bottom in Nvidia today or something like that. I think the dip buyers are still out there. I think the froth that was in the market is the cliche here is we took some of the froth off. We hear that all the time. We did take some of the froth out. I don't think anything different happened this week for the fundamental story of markets, even though the Fed is out there telling you they might be a little bit more hawkish.
What was this rebound all about, Grasso?
Yeah. Well, I think it's about the government getting back to work. I think it's about some of the froth being taken off. I don't know if there's enough froth that has really come off, but I think this is a decaying option on the government shutdown. They are going to open the government back up. It's not if, it's when. So does it happen next week? I think you got the elections done. So I think that was a major thing. They wanted to stay closed during the election so it gives people something to pound the table about. So I think now that we're done with the elections, the closer we are to getting the government back open, it's probably going to look uglier for the next week, but it will get back open.
Yeah, Bonawyn.
I tend to agree. I mean, in terms of what was the headline that led us to kind of reverse back higher, it clearly was what was coming out of Washington. I mean, what has been going on for the last several weeks clearly wasn't that. What clearly wasn't leading us to some resolution, and perhaps this new option, I see nothing but upside because we had seen where we were stuck previously. I will argue that I really don't understand why we had sold off so precipitously in the first place. I mean, some of the headlines say things like Amazon was down 5%, but if you look at Amazon over a 2-week period, Amazon went from 220 to 255 on the back of earnings. Fine, it pulled back to 240, but to frame that in a way that we're in this deep sell-off, I think is a bit of a misnomer. And I think once you started actually parsing through some of the data, I mean, we mentioned it earlier on the call today, 85% of companies that have reported have beat, and you still see concentration in terms of beating in industrials, in financials, in in IT. So the earnings reports still spoke to a strong market. And being that we have a dearth of information coming from Washington and we're missing some of this more public information, all we have to go off of is earnings. And those continue to be quite strong. So I think, yes, some froth came out of the market. But the truth of the matter is I'm not sure we should have been there in the first place.
I mean, if the froth came out, then do we believe that the worries about AI spending and how much is being spent and the return on investment, the ability to fund that investment through the debt markets, has that all then gone away?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, it seems like way too big of an issue to be resolved from Tuesday, right? Or whenever that started. So this, to me, was not a buy the dip. You know, we had our midday call, looked a little different. The market looked different then than it does now. Bonawyn was, getting somewhat optimistic, right? But to me, this is not a buy the dip because this isn't a dip, to your point, right? This is like, if you back up and look at this in a long-term view of what's happened to these stocks and you squint a little, you don't even see what happened in the last week. So